Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this regular meeting of Tampa Bay Water for Monday, March 17th, 2025. This meeting was noticed in the Florida Administrative Register and on the Tampa Bay Water website. The meeting is available for viewing through live streaming, and a recording of the meeting will be posted on the agency's website. Commissioner Kathleen Peters and Commissioner Jack Mariano both had conflicts this morning, and they wanted their absences, excused absences noted for the record, and Vice Chair Hanowitz was unable to attend the meeting and informed us of her absence prior to today. So with that, Madam Clerk, can we please call the roll?
Commissioner Cohen,
Here.
Councilmember Hanowitz, Mayor Davis,
Here.
Commissioner Eggers,
Here.
Commissioner Mariano, Councilman Miranda,
Here.
Commissioner Oakley,
Here.
Commissioner Peters, Commissioner Wustel.
Here.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Oakley, would you now please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, at this time, we will open the meeting for public comment. We have 3 people signed up for public comment this morning. The first is Karen Hillary, followed by David Ballard Geddes Jr., and then Mark Clutho. So, Ms. Hillary, good morning. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, hello. My name is Karen Hillary, and I live in Brandon. Prior to the meeting, I sent all of you an email that detailed and outlined the South County pipeline that was handled and the way it was handled in my neighborhood. Based on the number of Brandon residents I've spoken to, I've lived in Brandon almost my entire life, so I know a lot of people in Brandon. Without a doubt, the project was handled just as poorly along the route as it was in my neighborhood. I'm not here to get explanations. At this point, your explanations seem to be an excuse that you feel to help you make you feel better that this was done properly. Today, I'm strictly here to put into the public records that as an entire Brandon community, we were not informed of the pipeline properly until it was too late. We were not given input that was actually heard and used. We have been told there is nothing we can do, and this pipeline is coming to us no matter what. At the very first community meeting we had, that's what we were told. As a tax-paying citizen in Hillsborough County for over 30 years, that's a very tough pill to swallow. And I think all of you who sit on the board would not feel any differently. This pipeline is not being placed to benefit our community at all. It's being placed to serve the poor planning and the lack of growth management that has happened in South Hillsborough County that's been allowed to happen. In the document I sent in each of you, I detailed years of communication with Tampa Bay Water where I was given incorrect information, false information, or no information at all due to errors on the part of the Tampa Bay Water and their staff. I have been told the route was diverted here at this board meeting at a board meeting to go through the heart of Brandon due to cost. But your own people that you hire stated at that same meeting that it was more likely to have a higher cost in the route that you ended up voting on due to the right-of-ways and easements. I have also been told this route better serves the needs of Hillsborough County for easier connections to the west for future plans. I've lived in Hillsborough County almost my entire life, and to this day, I find it very difficult to believe that Hillsborough County is going to adhere to some plan that they've made. With just this pipeline alone, changes to Hillsborough County plans have been made by running this pipeline through an EPC protected area of my neighborhood that we have been told numerous times is not allowed to be touched. But now it's going to be allowed to be dug up, dewatered, and put the pipeline through. Not far from my neighborhood, about another mile south, over the Alafaya, previously a bridge could not be built due to the environmental sensitivity of the area. Now the pipeline is going to be allowed to go underneath the Alafaya, and that's going to be okay. Makes no sense whatsoever. As a community, we're supposed to trust. I have been told numerous times that any concern that we bring up will be addressed and handled competently. Based on all my experience through this whole process, which has been years, I find it really hard to believe. It is frustrating to know that none of you live in the pipeline route, nor in the area of the pipeline. None of you will feel the inconvenience and the negative impact that a 12 to 15-foot deep trench
thank you very
being
much.
dug and dewatered in your house and placed 3 to 6 feet underneath.
Ma'am, thank you.
You voted without looking at schools, neighborhoods, no businesses that will be impacted. Since nothing can be done, I will end with saying, I just want you to take time. Think about how profoundly you negatively impacted a community with your vote, and before you ever vote again on something that's so costly that will so deeply impact a community, please ask yourself,
Ma'am,
would I
thank you
want
very
this
much.
done where I live?
Thank you. Mr. Geddes. And then Mark Clutho.
Hi, good morning. David Ballard Geddes Jr. I live on Georgia Avenue in Palm Harbor. The Mosaic Phosphate Mining Company held a public meeting in Plant City last Tuesday on March 11th to inform us that they are intending on injecting the wastewater from their phosphate mining operations into the ground. The Mosaic Phosphate Company wants to take the same type of toxic sludge that the Piney Point disaster spilled into Tampa Bay and pump their toxic, caustic wastewater into the ground, infecting the groundwater with the caustic waste fluids of their phosphate mining operations. The Mosaic Phosphate Mining has unearthed nearly half of Central Florida in search of nitrogen-based fertilizer and raw material that is ultimately refined down into the making of plutonium, desecrating the Florida landscape in its process. The phosphate mining has proven to be a horrible steward of the ecostructure. When Mosaic tries to explain this logic of theirs, injecting caustic, noxious, corrosive wastewater into a confined salty layer of the substrate in our aquifer, what could possibly go wrong with their logic? Trust me, I don't trust them or their chemistry. Intermixing chemicals or components into a confined, salty, saline, or brine-like substrate could very well cause a chemical reaction underground using the salty substrate as a catalyst, causing things to react, causing an expansion of such, an eruption, or even an explosion underground. Once the phosphate wastewater is interjected underground, such potential catalyst will remain in the substrate indefinitely, interjecting toxins and possible carcinogens, causing gases to build up underground, could cause an explosion. This is a ticking time bomb just waiting to go off. I think we have a national security issue before us with the injecting of caustic phosphate mining wastewater in our ground. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mark Clutho.
Mark Clutho, Largo. Look at this agenda here, and it's just unbelievable. You know, you talk about environmental conditions and, you know, water-wise, and I look at the plants that you're building here, and what the water will do to make them grow, and then they have to be mutilated because they can't grow. They'll be over the parking lot, over the sidewalk. Doggone shame, isn't it? A waste. Here we have the weak in Trump. Oh, here we go. Pledge to reverse the Biden administration focus on climate change. Well, you know what that's going to do, don't you? Science can't keep up with the warming planet. Yeah. Hurricane Milton is terrifying, and it's just the start. More hurricanes are slamming the Gulf Coast, and this is the new normal. Yeah. And I remember that dumb fool that came here to say this is the first public green building in Tampa Bay. Daylit. And you stupid fools still have those lights shining on the wall out there like you have some pictures hanging there. Where's Doge? Huh? Doge needs to be here to illuminate the waste that you fools are doing. It's so pathetic. It's absolutely ridiculous. How many dollars are wasted just on the lighting in this room alone? It's like you planned on doing appendectomies in here.
Thank you, Mr. Clutho. That is all of the people that we had signed up for public comment today. At this time, we are going to move on to the consent agenda. There were not items pulled for discussion, and so at this time, we will entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, Commissioner Akers.
Just if we could have just brief conversation about A8 and A13, I would appreciate it.
Yes, sir. A8 is an item, Kelly, I believe, for the
Yes.
Gray Robinson.
So the explanation on A8 is that Gray Robinson is handling the South Hillsborough Pipeline Project, eminent domain work for Tampa Bay Water. They have a partner who joined them who represents the Hillsborough County School Board. There's two parcels of the project of the South Hillsborough Pipeline Project that involve Hillsborough County School Board properties. And so we don't anticipate there being any issues between the two parties in negotiating the acquisition of those temporary construction easements. But if for some reason the negotiations fail, then each party will have to retain separate counsel. It is not Gray Robinson. So I was accepting of the request for a conflict waiver.
And you're comfortable with this?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Okay, A13 is the procurement exceptions vendors list. Our purchasing policy allows me, as the general manager, to sign contracts or purchases up to $100,000. The interpretation from our previous legal general counsel was that it's an accumulative $100,000 going back to the start of when Tampa Bay Water was formed in 1998. So as we approach over the 100,000, we bring this back to you, I believe about once a year is what our finance team has done. So this is the current list that will go over the 100 grand, which is my delegated authority.
So are we going to keep the cumulative thing, or are we going to get rid of it?
I would like to have an internal discussion to change it to be on an annual basis of the 100,000. And rather than going all the way back to 1998.
And what do we have to do to get to that?
We have to change our purchasing policies internally.
And okay, and you'll bring that back here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions on the consent agenda?
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Oakley, seconded by Commissioner Woostel. Please record your vote.
Mr. Chair, the motion passed unanimously.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on now to the regular agenda. Mr. Cardin, I will turn the meeting over to you at this time.
Yes, sir. B1 will be the general manager report. And so I wanted to start with our environmental conditions and report to you that we are in very good shape. We're doing very well. But I did want to show you some graphs and go through them. This is a new graph that updates on how we use our multiple sources. And so each bar of the month is an average water delivery from our regional system. Where you see the red in the bar, that's the reservoir usage. Blue represents the river water, and yellow represents the production from our desal facility. The green in each bar is our groundwater pumping from all of our well fields. So when we use water from the reservoir and the river water and the desal, so the red, blue, and yellow, that has an impact on the green. So when we have those available to us, we can adjust how much we're pumping out of the groundwater. So this is what this is showing you. We set monthly targets every month, well, we actually set them at the beginning of the fiscal year, and this is going to show you how well we have been doing based upon our management of the system and some things that we cannot control, Mother Nature. In February, we projected demands to be about 195 million gallons a day, and our actuals were 192.2 million gallons a day. For our future months, this graph is showing you that we're expecting to deliver more water in March through May of this year than what we predicted back in October. On a yearly basis, running average from October 2024 through February, we are averaging 195.1 million gallons a day, and our budget is for 209.7 million gallons a day. So next slide. You've seen this slide many times in Warren's presentation. It shows our consolidated permit monthly pumping rate, and it shows it all the way back through October of 23. The 12-month running average is currently at 86.8 million gallons a day at the end of February, and we expect to remain below or at our permit limit for the rest of the year. We are having good river flow this year. We have a full reservoir, and the desal plant is back online. The February pumping from the CWUP was 66.8 just for the month of February, and we targeted 82.7, so quite a bit lower than what our plans were. This graph is another way of looking at the production from our consolidated wellfield permit, the same graph I showed you, but just differently on this one previously. Where you see the red all by itself, that's where we pump more water from the wellfields than we targeted. Where you see the blue all on its own, that is where we actually pumped less than we targeted. So the permit limit is 90 million gallons a day, as it's shown in the red line, and the 12-month running average pumping rate is the blue going out further right. Those haven't happened yet, but you can see how we're tracking. This graph shows the same information from the consolidated wellfield permit, but only for the south central Hillsborough wellfield by itself. The average through February, it dropped slightly below the permit limit. It's at 24.78. The current permit is 24.95 million gallons a day. And as you can see, the dotted line, that is action that the board took last month. We transferred some permits from I think Tampa Electric and Hillsborough County, and we are modifying the permit with SwiftMud. It was presented to them, I think, on Friday. So the 26.92 million gallons a day would be the new permit limit if approved by the district later this year. And getting to my favorite graph. This is a graph of our reservoir, and as you can see, there's a lot of blue, and blue is good. The orange line is what we targeted, and you can see during the various months. Right now, if we all go down to March, we're supposed to be a little bit over 10 billion gallons a day, almost 11, but we are completely full still. We're at 15 billion gallons. With yesterday's rain, I would expect that should stay that way for a little bit longer. So here we are in the dry season with a full reservoir, and that's the first that's ever occurred. A few outreach slides. We have a partnership with the Pasco County Schools And we sponsor the Tampa Bay Water Environmental Stewardship Award at the Pasco Science and Engineering Showcase. This award was presented to this student for her work that focused on environmental conservation and sustainability of our water resources. We also joined the Tampa Bay Times community conversation, diving deep and how can we improve Tampa Bay's water quality. Warren Hogg represented the agency, and he was joined by other leaders from the Tampa Bay Estuary Program, the Tampa Bay Watch, USF, and Mosaic. They all participated in a presentation and round robin on the stage. Tampa Bay Water also sponsored and exhibited at the Tampa Bay Water Days at the MOSI, the Museum of Science and Industry, in celebration of the World Water Day. I believe that's coming up on March 22nd. This occurred just this weekend, so it was Friday and Saturday. We did the participation, and our sponsorship funded field trips for Title I students for those 2 days. And just a few notes that I would like to give to you. Items F6 and F8, you've already approved through the consent, but F6 is our financial statement through February, and we are not quite 6 months, we're almost, 5 months through the fiscal year, and you can see the condition of the agency. We are, I think, running $19 million ahead of our expenditures at this time. So all on track under our financial conditions. And then the other is the true-up for our member governments. We include that every month to give an idea to the different members, how are they tracking against our true-up at the end of the year. At the end of the year, we look at what they took and their percentage. You either give money back or you will get an invoice. So it's showing currently that Pinellas County and the cities of Newport Richey and Tampa will be refunded some monies if the fiscal year ended today. And then St. Petersburg, Pasco, and Hillsborough County will have a balance due if it ended today. I did want to let you know that next month we're planning to bring a permit to the board for approval. It's for the Alafia River. We've been operating the river under an emergency order by SwiftMud for more than a year now. It is currently set to expire at the end of March, but it allows us to take higher flow when we're in high flows than the permit. 19% in high flows versus 10% is the permit. We're also asking the board, the SwiftMud, to allow the permit to take up to 75 million gallons a day instead of the 60 million gallons a day. We've been going around talking to the various stakeholders and getting their feedback. I'm told that it's been all positive, and including the district, and so we will be presenting a permit to you next month for approval to be submitted to make this a permanent permit change. The budget, we are getting real close to presenting with all of the members the proposed budget. The workshop is scheduled for next month's meeting, and I have scheduled a one-on-one meeting with each of you, of the board members, prior to that. So I think over the next 2 weeks, I'll be meeting one-on-one with each of the board members to give you a high-level overview of what we are proposing in our budget. And then lastly, last week we conducted an internal strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities threats analysis. And so we're putting together the notes from that, and I'll be happy to share that with each of the board members when we have it available. But we did do a SWOT analysis, and so it was very timely, and I think it was very informative. And that, Mr. Chair, is my report under B1.
Commissioner Eggers.
Yeah, I think this past week you sent us a letter or a memo just briefly summarizing our approach over the last couple of years as it relates to the comments from Karen Hillary on the pipeline. So if you don't mind, I would just set that commentary just kind of sitting out there, and I'd like to just, if you could talk about that just briefly, about the methods that we did, if there's any shortfalls, the improvements that we need to make sure that we're going through in the future. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And actually, I have Brandon Moore here to speak to that.
Morning, board members. Yeah, so I think to the first question, Commissioner Eggers, we've had about nearly 100 communications between 2019 and today with various channels that we've used, like mailings, emails, social media, community meetings, door hangers, website updates. So those are the types of things that we've used. Some of
How many did we do before the decision was made out of the hundreds that we were talking about?
Well, those were mainly postcards and surveys. So we collected input before the decision was made on the criteria that the engineers were using to design the routes. So that was we used an advertising campaign to reach as many residents as we could. I'm not sure the quantity of postcards that went out. But I could find that out for you.
Well, I'm just not, again, I'm not, maybe I'm not asking the question right. I'm not liking the answer, so I need a little bit more.
Okay.
What did we have from a public interaction standpoint before we made this decision on this route? That's what I'm asking. Did we have public engagement, or was it just simply sending cards out to people and hoping they might respond to us? I mean, I'm just trying to make sure I'm clear on what we actually did to get input from our residents.
Yes, the actual efforts were postcards, collected data, input through a survey, and then followed up with emails as things changed on the board.
So no public hearings?
We did not have
No public conversations, no public outreaches in the community at all?
We had one virtual public meeting on the long-term master water plan update and the pipeline project. So we had one virtual community meeting.
Before the decision was made?
Yes.
Here. Okay, well, it, again, sounds like we maybe could have done a little bit more to engage our public, or give them opportunities. I know that Hillsborough County has done some of that. So I just was trying to get an overall sense of how we reached out, and I'm not hearing, maybe Hillsborough County did more. Thank you.
Commissioner Whistle.
Thank you. I remember, as many of you might know, I'm kind of a political outsider and unknown when I ran, but one of the first meetings I was watching was the county was pushing a countywide sales tax, and it's illegal for a county to market something. It's against the state's laws. So what they did is they went through and they used this other third party to develop a playbook to do it. But essentially the county spent about $1 million marketing and pushing, not marketing, but marketing and pushing this tax through the county. They had all of these infographics printed out. They did all of these community meetings all around Hillsborough County, which is about 1.6 million people, as many of you know. And Commissioner Cohen might not remember, but during the board meeting, he asked how many people did they eventually get to show up, and basically 7/10,000ths of the county, so 0.0007% of the county population showed up after $1 million of expenditures with all of this big push from the staff and these infographics. And my point is that even after that $1 million, it brought out such low participation, and it really opened my eyes to how difficult it is to get people to see what we're pushing when we're notifying them, and them to show up. I mean, it really opened my eyes, and I just don't know how much money it would take to make a meaningful impact on Tampa Bay Water or Hillsborough County to notify people that, hey, we're going to build this big pipeline. I don't really have a question. I just wanted to make that point in defense of whatever efforts we're doing. It's extremely difficult. So
Well,
I appreciate.
I would just thank you. I recall what you're referring to. Many of us were here when we made the decision about the pipeline, and it's been a couple of years. It was 2022, I think, when it came in front of us. But what I remember was that there was a pretty robust discussion about it at the time. It wasn't like It went on for a series of meetings. It was definitely discussed at the Board of County Commissioners in Hillsborough. And I do think it would be a good idea, though, to answer your questions, Commissioner Eggers, and perhaps we could get you some information on what Hillsborough did at the time of that all this was going on here at Tampa Bay Water. But I remember there were people that were coming to public comment and speaking to us about it and weighing in on it from the community over the period of meetings that we had to discuss it.
Okay. Well, again, that makes me feel a little better that we were at least reaching out somewhere along the ways to have either virtual interactions. We seem to have them all over the place. Our staff does it all the time. Sometimes they actually go into the field and have it, and they have both. And so, and sometimes we don't get much interaction, to your point. But the point, that's not the issue. The issue is, are we providing that outlet for our residents to reach out to us, Tampa Bay Water for one, but also to Hillsborough County as well. So I'm not hearing that we did that, in my mind, enough to get that for Tampa Bay Water. So just want you to think through that, Chuck. I want you guys to maybe look at what our policies are. Heck, we do it when we're talking about repaving a road or restructuring a road through a community that might involve a little roundabout. And we've had like 3 public hearings and 2 in the field. So you can't have enough out there for access. And if the residents choose not to come, that's on them. But I just want to make sure that we're doing enough. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah, the only follow-up from our comments, there was a survey sent out when we had 10 routes. I don't know the number we sent out. I do know we had less than 700 returned. They did not ask the residents which route. They asked for in a route, what would you be looking for? So we took that information. The routes got narrowed down to 3, and we resurveyed a number of folks. And again, from their open comments, they were allowed to write comments to us. We gathered where they would like it and where they wouldn't, and we took that into consideration. So we brought it to the board, as Commissioner or Chair Cohen has said. It was in front of the board a few times. There was several folks that showed up. So we did reach out to a group of folks in the Brandon area, broadcast for surveys.
All right.
We took feedback that way.
I'd like to have some discussion on that in the future with how we're going to, these are huge capital projects that have implications for residents. And I don't think it hurts for us to be out in the field and having a conversation with our residents and giving them that opportunity to touch base. So, and that doesn't take a lot of money. Okay, so, all right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. At this time, we are going to move on to item B2, which is the legislative and grant funding program update.
Good morning, Chair,
Good
members
morning.
of the board. My name is Brant Bartlett. I'm the Government Affairs Program Manager here at Tampa Bay Water. As you know, the 2025 Florida legislative session kicked off a few weeks ago on March 4th. As a result, we have with us our legislative consultants joining us via Zoom to provide the board with an update. First, we'll be hearing from Mr. Peter Dunbar with Jones Walker, who serves as our General Legislative Counsel. Following Mr. Dunbar will be Mr. Matthew Blair, Corcoran Partners, who serves as both our legislative and grant funding consultant and our federal consultant. So at this time, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Pete and Matthew to provide an update on our efforts, as well as any insights they may have for the board. Pete, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Brant. Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, we can. Good morning.
Excellent. I'll try to do a brief overview as we begin the 3rd week of the regular legislative session. We were a bit delayed in the start because there were 2 special sessions and we had our snow week here in Tallahassee, which delayed things a bit. But the first 2 weeks of the session, they have picked up the pace. We now see the leadership incentives that begin to emerge. In the House, we're dealing again with the condo and construction-related issues. In the Senate, affordable housing and rural communities initiative. And in both houses, we've seen some water-related issues emerge. There are first 2 studies that deal with water quality in our surface waters. They are separate, one to be done by the Department of Environmental Protection, the other to be done by the Legislative OPAGA, Office of Planning and Budget. Those two do not appear to be a significant priority in the House, but there are two that I'd like to focus on. One is found in a committee bill from the Senate, which gives it a priority in that body. It also has a companion bill. Its focus is primarily on the water management districts, particularly on South Florida Water Management District, but in it, there are new incentives or restrictions that are created for lobbying activities when advocating before the board and new conflict of interest standards for the board members. There are restrictions contained in it on the use of funds received from the state to the water management districts, using them for local match, and also a provision that provides for new ad valorem tax incentives for capital improvement projects, and that includes those for water supply. The other significant initiative, also I think a leadership priority, is the annual Department of Agriculture bill. In that one, while it's a 100-plus page bill, there are two significant sections that probably are very relevant both to Tampa Bay Water and to the individual member governments. In one of the sections, we now have appearing a new definition of what a water quality additive is, and a new restriction on that does not permit water quality additives that do not meet the new defined standard. While not mentioned specifically, I think the speculation is much of this deals with whether or not an additive might be fluoride and whether or not fluoride would be permitted. So those are the water-related items. I will say that there are, as there are each year, operational initiatives relating to the state retirement program, how we can display flags on our properties. There are new pending restrictions on the use of drones, modifications to the Administrative Procedures Act, and an effort to raise the limit on sovereign immunity. All of those, we have bi-monthly updates with senior staff to keep them abreast of where we are. And so that's a quick overview. I would also point out that we do provide a weekly memo that I believe is distributed to each of you that will help keep track of the progress as these things move through the process. And with that, Matthew, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we can come back, and I'm happy to answer any questions if there are some. But Matthew, take it away, bud.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and board. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, again, thank you for allowing Pete and I to speak to you. And just to remind you that Pete stands with a team of 7 or 8 lobbyists here representing you, and we do as well. And so while you get to see our faces, you have a significant team here working for you during the legislative session. On the funding front, you have 2 funding requests that have been advanced. You're familiar with both of those. As Pete said, session started off a bit slower than we're used to because of the 2 special sessions that preceded it and the lack of really committee work that went in preparation for the session as a result of those 2 special sessions that jumped ahead. The budget today is starting to be worked. They originally expected to have budgets out late this week. We're being told by sub-chairs that the budgets are likely going to surface early next. That would put them just a few days behind what's typical, with an expectation to pass a House and a Senate individual budget late week 5 or week 6, now more likely. We stay on a normal budget time frame. There was discussion at the beginning of session as to whether the legislature would try to fast track its budget and get its budget wrapped up a week or 2 earlier than normal. We've seen no evidence of that. There's been no advancing of time frame as it relates to budget. We do hear from members, whether they're members of the subcommittees that are appropriations related whether it's from the sub chairs, whether it's from the big chairs, or whether it's just from a member that's not on an appropriations committee, that the funding levels this year for appropriations requests will be reduced. As we had reported, that was expected to be around $1 billion. Sub-chairs were telling us last week that that could be more in the range of $750 million. And so, again, just a continued focus on reduction from the legislature as it relates to member requests and the budget. That doesn't put us in a better or worse condition than we ever are. It just means that the members are individually very, very thoughtful about what they put forward as a number of requests and the priorities that they're identifying to their chairs that they really want to take home to their community. I'm going to shift just quickly to federal and give you a quick snapshot that, as you all are aware, the House and the Senate passed a continuing resolution late last week at the federal level, which averted a government shutdown. I think early in the week there was an expectation that that might not be the case, but by Friday morning, there had been agreement reached to keep government funded at the current levels, raise the debt ceiling, and you'll note that the government didn't shut down on Saturday morning, as had been expected. We are expecting that the next 2 months will hold a discussion related to budget and spending, making permanent the tax package that the Trump administration had passed during its first term in office, and Congress and the discussions that we've had with members suggest that that will be their focus heavily for the next 2 months, trying to wrap that up sometime by the early summer. You remember that there are usually community project requests that are requested or allowed during this time of the year by members of the House and Senate in Congress. There's been no clarity on that this year. This is normally the time of year when the Ways and Means Committee is starting to announce those things, and there has been no information provided yet. Some members are requesting from local governments and others projects that may be of interest for federal funding, but there is no formal process for that yet. And in the conversations, we're waiting to see what shakes out and whether that will be colored by the next 2 months' discussion on budget and the tax package. Your staff and we continue to stay focused on things related to PFAS, some tax matters related to bonding that could pop up into the tax, the overall tax agreement once that comes closer to fruition. And of course, we're monitoring the grants that are normally available through government that there's been some funds freezes and then releases on. And so as this new administration starts to get its feet under it and things begin to get into a more normalized pattern, once appointments are completed by the Senate, and again, not just cabinet level appointments confirmed, but most of those leadership teams also have to be confirmed by the Senate. We expect all of that work to be wrapped up ideally by the end of April, early May, and we start to see more of a normal cadence as it relates to federal administration and federal agency activity, which is the typical time frame when there's a transition between administrations. So with that, I'll wrap up the federal side, and like Pete, again, appreciate the opportunity to represent the board and staff at Tampa Bay Water, and are available for any questions.
Okay, Commissioner Westall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know that this is something that the board wants to take a position on, but maybe that we just need to have our lobbyists be informed about and watching. We've talked a lot about growth management here. When we're growing, do we communicate with Tampa Bay Water on what that might mean for permitting of new water? And there's two bills. The gentleman mentioned that they're talking about affordable housing. There's one in there by Senator Gates. The number is slipping my mind right now, but specifically, it's to put statewide exemptions for accessory dwelling units, ADUs, which is a challenge that Commissioner Cohen and I have both personally dealt with. It's not that I think either of us hate someone being able to create an accessory dwelling unit for their parent, which is what the intent of it is, or a family member. It's that it goes far beyond that. And then at the local level, we've been met with challenges of enforcement, code enforcement, the sheriffs being able to go in there and say whether or not they're actually doing what is permitted or allowed. And why that's important is because if we're really talking about strategic growth management, we're planning on, let's call it residential 4, and then we're going to have these major preemptions that we have no ability from our experience to go in and actually enforce and make sure what's happening is happening, how often it's happening, because it's a private property rights issue. And unless you're given access to the backyard where they might bring in a shed, run in and tie into the water, they've thus increased the amount of burden on the local utility system that we planned for and permitted for. I think that that's something that the state might not have optics on because they don't deal with that at the local level. So that one's from Senator Gates. The other one is SB 1118. That is being ran by Senator McLean. And I appreciate the bill. I think that it's right. It's superseding local government's rule over agricultural land. We just had a pretty tumultuous meeting where for the first time in Hillsborough County's history, we actually planned for growth and expanded our urban service area line. And I think that that was good and smart. We're planning for it. But SB 1118, as I read it, is very similar to Live Local, where it completely preempts the local government's comprehensive plans, land development codes, and local policies that may or may not restrict that farmers' private property rights in terms of growth and give them entitlements of any of the up to a certain percentages of the surrounding property. And why I think that that's important from our perspective is that we truly are, and from what I've seen in our conversations, trying to plan for this growth, stop being surprised, try and target the growth into areas that we believe would make sense. But this would just be another unknown exemption or superseding of our growth management strategies, because it's just the way I read it, and maybe the lobbyists will have a different opinion, was that it completely preempts our ability to hold them over our current policies and comprehensive plans. So that's SB 1118 from Senator McLean, and then the other one was from Senator Gates, and that was about accessory dwelling units. So that's more of an informational. I don't know that we need to take action on it, but maybe they can keep an eye on that and have conversations with those elected officials and bring some of those points to mind as they're making those decisions. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Westall. Anyone else?
I thought you were talking about short-term rentals. We're sort of crying out loud. We've been dealing with that problem and all of the issues that state government is, overriding our own growth plans. And so I certainly understand and appreciate your comments. Thank you.
And I would just say, Commissioner, I learned about accessory dwelling units from Councilman Miranda. So, all right. Thank you very much. Is there anything else on this item? All right. We are going to go now to our action items. We have two. I'd like to go to number C2 first. That is the surface water treatment plant expansion. And Maribel Medina will take us through that discussion. And we do have a vote.
Yes, just before Maribel goes up there, I did want to talk to you a little bit about, you had an email that was sent over the weekend with some changes on pages 5 and 6. Our Assistant General Counsel, David Jackson, sent that out. We received those very late on Friday afternoon into the evening. And ordinarily, I would not be entertaining such late changes, but there is a financial implication. The cost guaranteed max pricing has subs locking in their prices that would expire if I brought it to you in April. And so I want to lock these prices in. Our general counsel has reviewed the changes they've asked for, and he is recommending approval of those changes. So Maribel will go through some slides, and then she's going to turn it over to David and walk us through those two changes that we brought to you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Agenda item C2 is an action item, and at the end of this presentation, I will be asking for your approval for a contract amendment for construction phase services for the surface water treatment plant expansion project. Before that, I would like to acknowledge the project team, including our project manager, Karim Molina Oyola, our legal counsel, David Jackson, and our integrated program management team, Black and Beach, for supporting getting through this step in the process. The surface water treatment expansion project was selected as the next water supply project for the region and needs to be completed no later than the end of 2028. The main goal of this project is to increase the annual average water supply capacity available for the region up to 12.5 million gallons per day. This project is being delivered through the progressive design-build delivery method with guaranteed maximum pricing, or GMP, and amending the existing Veolia design-build-operate contract to implement the design and construction of this project. This slide shows the completed and upcoming milestones for this project. To date, we have reached the 60% design. We have issued and received your approval for 2 early equipment packages and the purchase of equipment, completed value engineering, and negotiated the guarantee maximum price package being presented today for construction activities. As for upcoming activities, we will be completing the design by August, start construction on September, and reach substantial and final completion by January and April of 2028, respectively. The key message in here is that we are on schedule to complete this project before the end of 2028. This slide shows that to date, we have a contract amounts of up to $36 million, which includes the items listed in the slide. In addition to that, the contract amendment being presented today of $145.1 million includes the engineering services during the construction phase, the actual construction, additional equipment and material purchases, and owner's allowances and contingencies. Now, I'm going to transition to Mr. David Jackson to go over the changes that were presented earlier this week.
Good morning. Yes, just wanted to walk through the couple of 11th hour changes we got. And one of the challenges we had in negotiating this amendment was the fact that Veolia, our construction manager, was simultaneously negotiating the design build contract with the design build contractor CDM. So everything kind of had to flow up and flow down between those 2 agreements. So again, apologies for the last minute, but Mr. Cardin indicated it was kind of a necessary thing. So just to walk you through those real quickly. So our underlying agreement with Veolia has certain uncontrollable circumstances defined within it. These are certain acts that impact the contractor's ability to perform or the cost of their performance. And among the uncontrollable circumstances, there's a definition of change in law, which is adoption of a rule or law by a governmental body or issuance of an order to change applicable law, which gets us to the issue of tariffs. While it's probably likely falls within that definition, it's obviously a big concern, and they wanted just some clarification to eliminate any ambiguity with respect to tariffs. So the definition of change in law, they proposed to add the language there to any adoption, imposition of tariffs that take effect after February 20th. That was the day they locked in their GMP price. That would increase the costs for the schedule to perform, would enable them to seek a change order to account for that, which, again, seems to fall within the definition we had, but help to eliminate that ambiguity. The second item was again, under uncontrollable circumstances, we had a definition for failure of a governmental body to timely issue permits. And they included in their GMP some specific scheduling time frame for issuance of permits. So we have this table here specific to this project that they wanted included to allow them to seek some type of relief if it were to, in terms of cost or time for performance, if that were to come up. The last thing that changed is actually ties back to the tariffs question. So under the definition of uncontrollable circumstances, while there are a number of things that are specifically included, there are also a number of things that are specifically excluded, including sales tax on tangible personal property or federal or state taxes that impact the company's income. And they just added this part of the definition to make sure it was clear that the language we're proposing to include on tariffs would not fall under the exclusion for their taxes. So again, those are the changes that kind of came in at the last minute. I'll turn it back over to Maribel.
And with that, we request approval of the negotiated agreement amendment with Veolia for construction services in the amount of $145.1 million, which includes $8.1 million for owner's allowances. And both David and I are ready to answer any questions, if you may.
Commissioner Eggers.
So just, because this is obviously taking center stage at the national level, but what percentage of the products that we're ordering what percentage of our cost of $145 million is coming from overseas that we may be at risk with this contract?
That's an excellent question. I do not have a concrete answer, but we can provide it later on after this meeting.
So maybe I'm going to ask for something like, is it 10%? Are we 90%? Do we have a sense of what level of exposure we have with this?
We do have Veolia in the audience, and I'd like for them to come up, please, and possibly talk about their funding through CDM with their materials.
Yeah. But before that, I'm going to add that we did get your approval for early equipment purchases, which were major components of this project, and we secure the pricing early on. We have ordered most of the equipment using our owner's direct purchase program, which allows us to save the tax savings at a minimum. But I'm going to defer the rest of the question to Mr. Mike Kuhn.
And none of those that we've purchased are subject to any adjustments?
Should not.
What's that?
Should not.
Should not?
Yeah.
Or will not?
Good morning, Board. My name is Ryan Hageman. I'm with CDM Smith, the design builder. Just to build on what we were talking about there, of this GMP, roughly $75 million is in construction costs that hasn't been bought yet. So we've done a good job of buying early equipment totaling roughly $21 million that should supersede the tariff risk. So that's coming off the table. Of the $75 million that's still to be bought, my expectation is less than 10% would be heavily subject to tariffs because the main process equipment, which is more predominantly procured overseas, is already bought. So our main risk would be things like steel for rebar and things of that nature.
So I appreciate that part. And again, I'm going to go back to that word should or will on the 21 million. Is that because of the changing laws that we're talking about, that they might reach back and get stuff that was done before any tariffs were put in place?
I think that would be the concern. I'm not an expert on tariff law, certainly, but that equipment is already purchased, under contract, shop drawings are in hand, and we're ready to release. So I believe it's unlikely, in my personal opinion, that they'd be able to claw back something that's ready to be put into fabrication. But again, it's a fairly fluid situation.
We know where to find you when you, no, kidding.
Yes, sir.
So the 75 million, 10%, so we're talking 7.5 million roughly remaining that could be subject to the tariff issues that we're talking about.
That's correct. So of the 7.5 million just influenced by tariffs, again, you'd have some percentage of cost change on that. It's not going to change 100%, right? Some of the tariffs have been in the 15 to 25% range, generally speaking. So we could see something in that nature.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question I had was relating to the permitting period. So these are the standard permitting timeframes that these organizations, these various organizations are saying, and so that if the permit period lasts longer than that, and it can be shown that our costs are going up because of that, That's what you're saying?
Yes, sir. So we obviously don't control the permitting agencies. These are very standard, I would say even conservative durations. So I have every expectation that the various permitting agencies would meet these. But since they're not in our control, we typically like to have this type of clarification. One, because it's outside our control, and two, we can utilize the government's expertise and collaboration with these permitting agencies to help spur that along.
Okay.
It allows us to work together as a team a little bit better.
And we feel that our part of it and the submission of it is rock solid. So we're not worried about our part, right? We're
Yes,
just,
sir.
'cause I'm always getting this like people pointing fingers, right? So it was either the government or it's the client, but it's never us, the contractor. So I just was curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yes, sir. The good news about this particular project is Tampa Bay Water, CDM Smith, and Veolia have all been involved for multiple phases going back 20 years. And so our existing knowledge on this type of a plant is pretty solid, that we should be able to produce something that should be permitted relatively consistently with the past trains.
So we're comfortable with our process, and it's just a matter of the various government agencies that we're protecting ourselves on.
Yes, sir. No question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Commissioner Wustel?
Thanks. My questions are going to be for you. About the commodity products. I used to negotiate steel and aluminum thousands of tons a year, so I have an idea of how that industry works. How far out, what's the timeline of us needing to expend the $75 million in construction materials? Like over what period of time are we looking at?
So we would look to procure all of our subcontracts and material purchase orders immediately. So that would mitigate some form of that risk. Now, our subcontractors or suppliers could also claim a change in law scenario, which would trigger that situation. The work is expected to be put in place in the next 1 to 2 years. So we could have like rebar put on site within a year, to give you an idea on once it's in hand, there's no commercial issues.
Yeah. Most suppliers look a certain period of time out, but if you don't plan to put the steel on the ground until next year, then I guess you're probably going to be looking at having to buy some of the newly tariffed products. But maybe, those people are smart. They will shop different areas. They will look at where the tariffs are coming from. They will say, okay, well, this supplier down here has not been hit with a tariff, and they will go to that plant. So I'm not overly concerned by it, but very good. Thank you.
Any additional questions?
Just one last.
Yes, Commissioner Eggers.
And this cost that we're talking about, how does that compare to the original costs that we estimated? Please.
So the total cost, if I go back to this slide in here, with this contract today, we will be at $181.1 million, and we are right within the budget at this point. The budget approved in the current CIP program.
Understand.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no further discussion, can we have a motion?
Move approval.
We have a motion from Commissioner Wustel, seconded by Commissioner Oakley. Please record your vote.
Mr. Chair, the motion passed unanimously.
Thank you very much. And I just want to thank our legal counsel and Mr. Carden and everyone that worked on this. I know these last-minute changes caused some work to get ready for today's meeting, but I appreciate your reaching out to us with that information. We're going to move on now to item number C1, which is Water Conservation Month Proclamation and Tampa Bay Waterwise Program Update. Good morning, Ms. Brown.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. This morning, you have the opportunity to proclaim April as Water Conservation Month. And after that action item, I'll provide a brief update on the Tampa Bay Waterwise Conservation Program. For 27 years, April has been declared as Water Conservation Month throughout Florida. And this effort is coordinated by the Florida section of the American Water Works Association, Florida's water management districts, and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. This proclamation generates awareness about the need for water conservation in the driest months. This year's theme of the proclamation is irrigation system evaluations, which is highlighted as a way to underscore the importance of getting sprinkler systems checked and tuned up. Homes can use half or more of their water outdoors, and so this is a really important area to focus on, especially in the dry season. Tampa Bay Water has adopted this proclamation many times in the past, and we do so alongside our member governments. Staff recommends the adoption of the proclamation that April is Water Conservation Month.
Thank you very much. I just want to say that I was so sure that the board was going to do this that I signed it before the vote. But if for some reason it gets caught up, we'll rip it up.
So if we say move denial or something?
We'll have to do something with it. But I do want to say we're going to do it in Hillsborough County at our first meeting in April. And this is always a very, very good opportunity to remind people of the importance of conservation and the importance of the actions that they actually take, particularly related to their lawns and irrigation and how much water gets consumed that way.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Oakley, seconded by Councilman Miranda, to declare Water Conservation Month for April 2025.
Mr. Chair, the motion passed unanimously.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And now I'll transition to a brief update on the Tampa Bay WaterWise program, our regional water conservation rebate program. In keeping with the theme of the proclamation just adopted, the theme of irrigation system evaluations, I'm pleased to let you know that the Tampa Bay WaterWise program is piloting a sprinkler system rebate for residential customers. This pilot program has been developed by members of the working group, which include member government staff, along with input from licensed irrigation contractors through the Florida Irrigation Society. Of note, the Florida Irrigation Society gave an award to Tampa Bay Water last year for our agency's current and long-standing commitment to water conservation and collaboration. This pilot will launch in April and last 6 months, going through September of this year. And the rebate program helps to provide an initial visit from a licensed irrigation contractor who will do that sprinkler system checkup and make sure the irrigation clocks are set properly, and also identify opportunities to increase the efficiency of sprinkler systems. Rebates for high-efficiency spray nozzles, spray bodies, rain shutoff devices, and capping any sprinkler heads that are no longer needed. Lastly, the working group is also looking at another pilot program, a pilot to increase the price for the toilet rebates to see if that has an impact on the number of rebates issued. You may recall in a previous board meeting, a couple board members suggested the idea of increasing those rebate prices for toilets, and we're looking at that. This slide shows our savings to date for this fiscal year. In the solid blue, that is our savings to date, about 90,000 gallons per day. Combined with the projects that we have in progress, which are under construction in the blue diagonal lines, that gets us to our low target for the year, so we are certain to exceed that low target. We did see a little bit of a slowdown in rebate activity after the storms last year, but that activity picked back up in January. And we are also currently working with some properties who are in the process of rebuilding after the storms. The bar on the right side of this graph shows the potential water savings that we have identified through pre-inspections that have already been conducted at numerous properties. And among those, so you can see that if all of those customers did all of those projects, we would very much exceed the high target. But it is a process to get those customers to finish the projects. Among these potential projects are some with local government buildings here in Pinellas County, and that serves as a reminder that county and city facilities are eligible for these rebates as well. The program's outreach manager has reached out to each of your local governments to make sure that the right staff are aware of the program and know how to use it, and that effort is ongoing. And lastly, just a few program updates. So far, the program's cost effectiveness is the same as last year, coming in at 78 cents per 1,000 gallons. well below the cost of new water supply development, which ranges from $3 to $11 per 1,000 gallons. The administrative costs from EGIA, who is our third-party rebate administrator, are about 12% of total program costs. Last year, that cost was about 15%. The agency is going to be soon reissuing a request for proposals for the third-party rebate administrator, as requested by the board, for a new 5-year contract. Agency staff have reached out to other cities with rebate programs and identified more companies that could be potential bidders. Member government staff will serve on the selection committee, and I will be back in a few months seeking board approval for the new contract with the successful bidder. And lastly, our marketing plan this year is supported with a larger marketing budget, which was requested and approved by the working group and agency staff with the singular aim of increasing water savings. Specifically, this budget has allowed for more engagement with the commercial, school sector, and local government sectors. We've also invested in more earned media opportunities, basically getting in front of news cameras to tell the story about how these rebates are helping customers around the region. And lastly, our marketing efforts continue to support our member governments' communication efforts. Member governments are a well-known and trusted entity, which is why they are the second largest source for completed applications in this program. The number one source is direct web searches, typing it into a search engine. So we encourage our members to continue and to expand their efforts to promote the program so that we can save more water together. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will see you in a couple of months. At this time, we're going to move on. We have 3 presentations today. I am going to hand the gavel at this time to our very capable immediate past chair, Commissioner Oakley. And our first member government report will be from the City of St. Petersburg.
Hello, Tampa Bay Water, board members, and audience. My name is John Palanchar. I'm with the City of St. Petersburg. I'm the Water Resources Director for the City of St. Petersburg, and I appreciate this opportunity to present here. I'm not the world's greatest presenter, so luckily, Councilmember Hanowitz is not present to see me fumble over my words during this, so I appreciate that very much. So just kind of going through, going to do a system overview briefly, talk about some current projects, and then talk about some future projects that we're currently working on within the City of St. Petersburg. The City of St. Petersburg service area covers the city, but also South Pasadena, the city of Gulfport, and portions of Pinellas County. There are approximately 95,000 accounts that we serve, which has a functional population of over 367,000 people. We have an operating budget of $47 million in fiscal year 25 and a capital program of $20 million. And this is just for water. We are a water, wastewater, reclaimed water utility. And so that's just covering the water portion. We're projected to invest almost $500 million just in our drinking water system over the next 10 years. So on average, the residents in St. Petersburg use 46 million gallons per day of water. 28 million gallons of that is drinking water coming from Tampa Bay Water. And 18 million gallons of that is reclaimed water from irrigation coming from our reuse system. It's continued investment that's needed to ensure this infrastructure operates and has reliability and capacity for today and tomorrow's demands for both water and our wastewater treatment facilities. And it's critical to ensure that over 1,500 miles of water pipes are maintained and provide reliable services to our customers. So with that, we are working on a pumping, transmission, and storage facility plan. This is the current plan that we are working on to evaluate how water gets from the Cosme treatment plant to our two major pump stations, Oberly and Washington Terrace, within the city of St. Petersburg, that provide water to those 367,000 residents. So we are looking at our storage portion of this plan to incorporate the treatment plant at Cosme, as well as our Oberly and Washington Terrace booster stations. It will ensure that a pumping scheme is developed as part of any new upgrades and fit into the future potable demands for the service area. Significant part of this project includes a risk report of our two transmission mains and their ability to provide potable water to the city while providing redundant operations. The 36-inch main, our oldest vintage, is approaching 100 years in service and is currently unable to supply the city's potable daily water needs independent of the 48-inch transmission main. This plan is evaluating the needs of the system as functional units to guide scope, budget, and schedule for prioritizing and timing of upgrades and replacements through the anticipated future. Kind of tying into that, here's another project. It's our transmission main intertie evaluation project. And if you see these two dark blue and light blue, the dark blue is our 36-inch transmission main, and the light blue is our 48-inch transmission main coming from Cosme down to the two pump stations. We are currently working similarly to what Tampa Bay Water is doing with the 2045 emergency evaluation. We're working with Pinellas County to look at ways to ensure we can supply the city should something happen to the 36 or the 48. As I said, the 36 is not capable of providing the average daily flow to the city alone. 48 is. If something were to happen to the 48, that is where we would really be calling in all of our favors to try and provide a basic amount of water to the residents. And so we have interties that are identified here where we can take and receive water from Pinellas County, Clearwater, and Pinellas Park. And so we're currently evaluating how to set those levels of service expectations for those interties. What can we send, what can we receive through those interties, and what needs to be done to meet those levels of service expectations. And that is a current project and is being worked through as we speak. Another current project, and it's been a long time coming, but it is in construction now, is the Lake Tarpon Canal transmission main replacement. So this is our 48-inch transmission main. So this project is under construction and is anticipated to be completed before the end of the year. It will eliminate a high-risk segment of the transmission main that crosses over the canal. Condition assessments have indicated large portions of this pipe are near the end of their useful life. So rather than repair the pipe or try and replace those sections, it was determined to be more cost-effective to replace the pipe and go under the canal and put it out of harm's way. And that will provide a much longer-lasting asset going into the future. Another current project that we have is our, just get this going, Aqueous Creek crossings in Safety Harbor. We have two Aqueous Creek crossings in Safety Harbor, as you can see in the short video. They are exposed to flows. The flows actually undermine the pipe. So we have sections that actually have an unsupported joint going through these canals. And so this project will be fast-tracking making this aqueous crossing. It's not an aerial crossing. It's not a subaqueous crossing. It's an aqueous crossing, a subaqueous crossing within these two creeks within Safety Harbor. Oh, next. Additionally, on our transmission main, we have pressure relief plates periodically throughout there. And you can see how close this transmission main goes to neighborhoods. We built this. This is our 36. In the early 1920s, or late 1920s, early 1930s. There were no homes there at the time. We have dedicated easements, which are a lot easier to control than putting a main in a right-of-way. But as the area was developed, it developed right up to those easements, with the most minimum setbacks that you could possibly imagine. We have to get temporary construction easements just to be able to get in here and do work on these pipes. So it creates a significant challenge as development encroaches on our easements. I wouldn't say, okay, encroaches might be the wrong word, but gets close to encroaching on our easements. So always looking at that is a challenge. But we have several of these that we're replacing in order to make sure that those pressure relief valves do not fail and create a much more unplanned construction in these folks' front yards. So future project. And this is a picture of us laying, and when I say us, I was not here at that time, but City of St. Petersburg laying the 36-inch transmission main under railroad track. I believe this is probably near the Forest Lake Road area in Oldsmar. And then you can see that small inset picture on the bottom is the current day joint of that 36-inch pipe. It is a bar-wrapped concrete pipe, and it is in amazing condition. You can see maybe a little bit of yellow right on the bottom of that pipe joint, but the overall condition of this pipe is I would say as close to pristine as you could get for having a nearly 100-year-old pipe. But what we want to do is do condition assessments across the entire transmission main system from the 48 and the 36. And our largest concern, honestly, is not the 36. It is the 48, because as I said, we cannot supply the city from the 36. If we were to lose the 48, we would not be able to supply the city. And so our prioritization for physical condition assessment is going to be evaluating the 48-inch transmission main, looking for any areas where there may be weaknesses or a higher likelihood of failure, and then directing our project resources towards those areas. And this is probably in the same area that previous picture was, replacing the transmission main along Forest Lakes. So this would be looking at really realigning it in coordination with road widening work that's proposed to be there. So this is more a replacement and realignment than a replacement due to condition. And then finally, I've been talking about our transmission mains and the pumping, storage, and transmission facilities, but I would be remiss, especially after Hillsborough County did such a good job talking about their AMI infrastructure. So we have pilot tested AMI on about 350 homes, and we have successfully run over 5 bill cycles through the pilot test. And I'm presuming there's probably some recognition of the challenges that St. Petersburg has had with billing recently. And so we are fast tracking our AMI program. It was very successful in the pilot. We were able to look at hourly water flow. We were able to give alerts to subscribers that have signed up if they have a high flow over a period of time, over an extended period of time. And so we're fast tracking this. It was supposed to begin in 27. We're trying to begin it right now in this fiscal year with existing funds. And we're looking for the best way to procure this. But we've got about 25% of our meters are already AMI ready. We just need to put in the endpoints. And as I said, the pilot was successful. We're able to run bills. So I think we're ready to hit the ground running on this one. So that one will be fast-tracked. And with that, I am available for any questions.
Yeah, well, thank you for the report, number one, and I'll pass along that you did a good job, so not to worry about that. So the 48-inch line is the one that you're most concerned about because of obviously how dependent we are on that system, or you are on that system. So what percentage of our line do you feel is at risk?
Oh, you're going to ask me to, okay.
No, I mean, I'm just trying to get a sense of like, what kind of, I mean, I'm sure you've been doing inspections.
Yeah, we do inspections and we do relocations, much like that Forest Lakes relocation. Whenever we relocate the pipe, we're able to inspect it. And there's been nothing that has indicated that there is an issue. We do leak detection. We've done satellite leak detection and in-pipe leak detection. We've not identified any leaks. So all the segments that we've had to relocate and taken the old pipes out, the pipe is in good condition. And we have identified no leaks within the system using satellite or acoustic leak detection within the transmission main. But when we're looking at a pipe that we want to be able to reliably serve our customers going into the future, it is going to be worth the investment of several $1 million to do that in-pipe physical condition assessment and get a look at the wall thickness. This is a pre-stressed concrete cylinder pipe. So pre-stressed concrete cylinder pipes are ones that will work great up until the point that they do not. They tend to have catastrophic failures within the wires, with steel wire within the pre-stressed concrete. And so the internal inspection will be able to go in and look at the condition of the steel within the pre-stressed concrete pipe and tell us what that condition is.
Great. Since you are the Water Resources Director, we won't talk about the sewer plants or any of that issue. But back to the water, do we have any concerns that you might have with regards to resiliency in any of your water supply plants or?
Our treatment plant is located Cosme, Odessa, and we have dedicated lines coming from Tampa Bay Water to our points of connection. We have a high reliability, we believe. We're going to continue to work with Tampa Bay Water to increase that reliability. Power to the well fields was one issue that we experienced during the last hurricane. But as far as the transmission system, undergrounding aerial crossings like the Tarpon Canal, that's one way to make it more resilient. Right after the storm, we lost a lot of water transmission trunk mains within the distribution system. So not before our pump stations, but out in the distribution system. And we lost so many of them as trees were going over that we thought we had lost a transmission main. We thought we had lost a large pipe, but a couple 12 inches, couple 8 inches, it adds up to, that type of water loss. And so that was an eye-opening thing. One thing that the AMI system will do is we will have pressure monitors strategically placed on those AMI meters. And so if we get another storm and we lose mains within the distribution system, we'll be able to triangulate that based on pressure loss on these AMI meters. And so that will help us respond much faster, be able to stop the hemorrhaging, put the tourniquet on, and continue to provide water to the rest of the city.
The plant's fine.
Plant's fine.
It's just the transmission lines.
Transmission mains and then within the distribution system.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
One question I had was, are you getting more demand for reclaimed water for irrigation in the process?
So as I stated, we have 46 million gallons per day of water that our residents use. 18 of that is from reclaimed water. We are at capacity for reclaimed water. We've reached carrying capacity. We are working on demand management at this point. We had looked into metering as a demand management strategy. The return on investment was not favorable. And so instead of installing AMI metering in the reclaim system, we are proposing to focus on irrigation evaluations. So much like with the potable water focus for this April's Water Conservation Proclamation, we're focusing on putting in irrigation controllers and looking at watering restrictions for reclaimed water. And that's a tough sell because the reclaimed water system was installed as a disposal option historically, and our customers pay a flat fee. That's why the challenge with metering. And so they have historically used as much as you can, not as much as you need. And so trying to change that narrative of reclaimed water as a disposal option to reclaimed water as a valuable resource is where we're at right now.
No, in Pasco, we're running short of reclaimed water for irrigation. We have a lot of people, a lot of developments, new developments that have come about are using reclaimed water to provide irrigation for a lot of homes. It takes 4 homes to get enough reclaim for 1 home.
Yeah, we're probably closer to 8 homes to produce one because our reclaimed water usage is so high at the flat rate.
So if they ever get a chance to think about metering that water to Pasco, then maybe we work out a deal that we can get some of that water.
I would love to see a regional solution where we could store the water when we have more than we need, and be able to dole it out when we have less and demand is highest.
Correct. All right. Thank you. Very good report.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to D2, Master Water Plan, Long-Term Master Water Plan.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Agenda item D2 includes an update on the Long-Term Master Water Plan Feasibility Program. This is a status report and no action will be requested. The 2023 Long-Term Master Water Plan included an updated assessment of Tampa Bay Water's demand projections beyond 2028. Approximately 25 million gallons per day of new supplies will be required by 2043, and approximately 10 to 20 million gallons per day of new supplies will be needed as early as fiscal year 2033. The 2023 Long-Term Master Water Plan, approved by the board in November of 2023, included further study of 7 water supply projects, which are listed on the screen. Only 6 of the projects require further feasibility study. Feasibility studies on the South Hillsborough Wellfield via aquifer recharge and the desalination plant expansion with seawater were completed in 2022 and do not require additional study at this time. Due to the similarities in the projects, the remaining projects were grouped together by supply source and divided into 2 larger projects or contracts, as shown on the screen. The first project is the feasibility study for new groundwater sources and includes the Eastern Pasco Wellfield Feasibility Study, which consists of a fresh and/or brackish groundwater wellfield, desalination plant expansion with brackish water, and we're also investigating a small increase to the consolidated water use permit. The second contract is the feasibility study for surface water sources, and it includes the North Pinellas Surface Water Treatment Plant and Reservoir, which will withdraw water from the Lake Tarpon Outfall Canal, a new surface water treatment plant at the C.W. Bill Young Regional Reservoir, and a new nearby reservoir using increased withdrawals from the Alafaya River, and a new South Hillsborough Surface Water Treatment Plant and Reservoir withdrawing water from the Little Manatee River and Bullfrog Creek. The feasibility program is where more detailed technical and economic evaluations will be completed. These additional studies will provide the amount of water that can be produced by each project, water quality, capital and operational and maintenance costs, as well as public engagement. The feasibility study for new groundwater sources contract was awarded to AECOM Technical Services in July of last year. To date, the team has completed preliminary hydraulic modeling and several public outreach activities. Public outreach activities are ongoing, and soon the team will begin preliminary impact analysis modeling. We'll also be coordinating with the Southwest Florida Water Management District for each project concept to confirm the approach and regulatory requirements. The Eastern Pasco Wellfield Feasibility Study is one of the more complex projects, and there's been a lot of activity on this one, so we wanted to highlight some of the major updates. As a reminder, this project required Tampa Bay Water acquire an easement for the construction of test production and monitoring wells. To date, the team has negotiated a temporary construction easement for the test wells with Pasco County. We've also developed plans and specifications for the site and test wells, as well as developed and submitted the aquifer performance test to the Southwest Florida Water Management District. We've also submitted site development permits for gopher tortoise relocation and conducted public engagement, including a public meeting this last December. Once permits are approved, contractors will mobilize to the site and start clearing, and the construction of the core hole will begin. We'll also be conducting a solicitation for the well drilling contract, and public outreach efforts are ongoing and will continue through the duration of the project to keep residents informed. We will hold another public meeting to share the results of the aquifer performance tests at the end. The feasibility study for surface water sources project was kicked off in last November with the award of the professional services contract to Hazen and Sawyer. Data collection efforts are ongoing, and over the past few months, the agency has met with several key stakeholders, including the Tampa Bay Estuary Program, Sierra Club, the Agency on Bay Management, and the Tampa Bay Water Keeper. Tampa Bay Water provided an overview of the surface water feasibility studies, as well as the Alafaya water use permit increase. The team is now working on developing a water quality database and sampling plans, and we're also working with the Southwest Florida Water Management District to gather information, and public outreach activities on this project are also ongoing and will continue through the duration of the studies. This slide shows the general timeline of the feasibility program and the selection of the next water supply configuration projects. The feasibility program will end in late 2026, and then we will begin the analysis of the project concepts and developing configurations. A recommendation for the next water supply will be brought back to the board in late 2027. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions? Thank you. I know they've had the public comment area up and had that meeting in Pasco County in East Pasco, which is my district. And I think it was very well taken, and I think they have a better understanding of what a test well means. So that worked out very well for Pasco County. Thank you. Next, we move to D3, Water Quality Update Presentation. Steve, I'll destroy your last name, so let you say it.
Good morning. It's Steve Fleischacker.
Okay, there you go.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Today's water quality presentation will highlight Tampa Bay Water's ongoing efforts to address EPA's PFAS drinking water requirements and update our regional water quality study recommendations. This presentation is for information only, and no board action will be requested today. EPA finalized the new drinking water regulations for PFAS last year, and compliance is required about 4 years from now. Tampa Bay Water has worked with member utilities to identify PFAS in our region's drinking water. Quarterly samples were collected and analyzed as part of an EPA study. Monthly samples are continuing to be collected and analyzed to understand how PFAS levels change over time. Benchtop PFAS treatability studies were completed by Carollo engineers at the end of last year. This is a deliberate, data-driven process to develop treatment recommendations so the board can make an informed decision. Based on PFAS test results from regional delivery locations shown in blue in this slide, the regional surface water treatment plant and the 2 water treatment plants for our Brandon urban dispersed wells were identified with PFOS levels slightly above or near EPA's new limit of 4 parts per trillion. The 3 treatment locations are shown in orange. Carollo engineers performed PFAS benchtop treatability tests on waters from these 3 locations. These treatability tests, which assessed the water treatment technologies shown on this slide, were completed this past November. These are treatment technologies recognized by the EPA as the most effective for treating PFAS. Carollo used the PFAS treatability test results to update their regional water quality study recommendations. They did this by re-examining treatment concept designs, cost estimates, and implementation priorities from the original regional water quality study. And the update work was completed this past January. Last month, staff met with each member utility to revisit the original study in preparation for their review of the draft Regional Water Quality Study Update Report. This month, members received the draft report, and last week, we met with utility directors and their technical teams to walk through the report to help them with their reviews. Next month, we plan to receive all members' comments. We plan to then hold a joint work session to share and discuss everyone's technical feedback. It's important that we're all on the same page. Our intent is to have a consensus on the technical foundation that supports recommendations for PFAS and TOC treatment concepts, cost estimates, and a prioritization schedule. We're also monitoring EPA's regulatory activities for potential changes to the new drinking water regulations for PFAS. Once we have all members' technical comments and any potential EPA changes, we'll be better positioned to identify the project schedule beyond next month. We plan to be back to you with another update at the next board meeting. With that, it concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
One quick one. So just to help me understand, it seems like when we originally did the testing on the PFAS that we were, I think there was one site that was, right at the number, and then we had all of these rains that came. And so I guess some of the testing has shown increases, but not like, these new standards are really, really tight. So can you just speak a little bit to that, what's causing that a little bit, or what the thought process is with that little bump in the...
Sure. So the little bump is in this tiny measurement of parts per trillion. The limit is at 4. And we had previously seen one location that was a little bit above 4, and then and a few very close to 4. And then when the rains came, the numbers came up on the order of 5 and 6 and 7 parts per trillion. Where it comes from, it's believed to be mostly environmental impacts. Deposition from rain events. There's a lot of PFAS in the atmosphere, a lot of reactions when it rains. That comes down, percolates into the ground. That's generally a big contributor. Another one could be, wastewater discharges into our surface waters, as well as coming out of leaching fields from septic systems. So we don't have any large sources of PFAS in this region that are near our water supplies, but it's just general background. And honestly, we're so close to the limit, but we're slightly over, which is why we need to look at treatment.
Right. And just for perspective, what was the treatment level prior to getting down to 4? What was that level that EPA had?
Well, there was no established level other than there were some guidelines, and the guidelines that the EPA had a number of years back was 70 parts per trillion.
Okay. And that just in the last couple of years has been changed
Last few years, yeah.
to 4. Okay.
It came all the way down to 4, yes.
Okay. Appreciate that.
Did you say that PFAS is in the atmosphere?
Yes.
So how do we measure, what are we doing to measure that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that part?
What? Oh, sorry. So what are we doing to how are you measuring that?
We're not measuring what's in the atmosphere.
Okay. So how do we know it's in the atmosphere?
Lots of literature, lots of experiments that are done at universities.
Huh. That's the first time I'm hearing it. Can you tell me again, out of these 3 treatabilities testing that were completed, did we get the results on that? It sounds familiar, but out of the granular activated carbon, suspended ion exchange, and fixed bed ion exchange?
So that's the subject of the draft regional water quality study update. That's included in there. So right now, we have your technical staffs and your utility directors looking at our data to make sure that they're in agreement that the work has been done properly, that it makes sense to them. And once that's complete, which is next month, then we'd be coming back to you to give you results.
Can you give me like a
Yeah, sure,
soft
it works.
answer?
It works.
Well, which one worked the best?
Well, what we do is we identify a certain technology for a certain type of groundwater. So for example, if you have a groundwater, we're addressing PFAS in all cases, right? If you have a groundwater that has hydrogen sulfide in it, which we do, and we remove the hydrogen sulfide, that tends to have you select a treatment process that's a combination of ozone and granular activated carbon because it's appropriate for water that's containing the hydrogen sulfide as well. When you don't have the hydrogen sulfide issue, then you're looking at an ion exchange process. And in our case, where we're looking at the surface water treatment plant, because that's such a large plant, it's really not amenable to what we would call a fixed bed ion exchange system, which is essentially, think of it as tanks full of resin material that are packed and you're pouring water in and you're getting clean water out the bottom. It doesn't work well for large volume situations because you need so many tanks like that. So there we're looking at a suspended ion exchange system, which is very much the same process that the city of Tampa is looking at for PFAS removal and TOC, and that's the key. These treatment technologies, whether we're talking about granular activated carbon or we're talking about suspended ion exchange or even fixed bed ion exchange, they remove both TOC, which has been a concern to the region, as well as PFAS. It's how they get the job done is what we've been studying. That help?
Okay. All right.
Didn't you say, Steve, that the PFAS is in the atmosphere, and after rainfall, that would come to the ground? Is that how it got to the ground?
Yeah, yes. The simple answer is yes.
Okay.
One of the sources of PFAS in the atmosphere is the replacement compounds that were used for CFCs, the Freon and those types of things that were banned years ago. The substitutes are now causing us to recognize that they're in the atmosphere as well.
You lost? I'm not a scientist, but I'll take your word for it. Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So there's no administrative matters and business, nothing to report. We go to receive and file.
Move approval.
I got a motion by Mr. Eggers and a second by
Sure. Miranda.
Miranda
Or whoever.
or whoever. Mark your ballots. And that brings us to one other thing, and I don't need a motion. We're adjourned.